welcome back to Justin Talks Villa. Just want to quickly say thanks to Pete at the Play for letting me use the venue again after my Paul Merson interview. That was the last one I did here. That's gone down fantastic. But today, I'm delighted to be joined by ex-Aston Villa, Sunderland, Watford, Southampton, and a few more, but I better not mention them, to be honest, being a Villa podcast. Kevin Phillips. Kev, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining me, honestly. So, I've done a bit of research into your career, and it is incredible. You are still in the top 40 all-time goal scorers in the Premier League. When you think the Premier League's 33 years old this year, that's some feat, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't realise that, but I suppose when I sit here and hear you say that, I suppose the one thing that I'm gutted about, I didn't make that 100 club.
I did look at that, 91, wasn't it?
Yeah, so... yeah, disappointing.
You look fit still, can't you?
No, I went for a run yesterday. Believe me, no, I'm not. I may look fit, but I don't feel fit. But yeah, it's I played in an era in the Premier League when there was some unbelievable strikers.
There's some decent strikers around then, weren't there?
Some top strikers. I spoke to someone from the Daily Telegraph yesterday, I did an interview, and he reminded me, because obviously the England game's coming up against Andorra, and there's only Ollie Watkins and Harry Kane, the two recognised centre forwards. And the guy from the Daily Telegraph said to me that, when you was picked the last time England played at Villa Park, there was 6 strikers. Andy Cole, Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler, Emil Heskey, Teddy Sheringham. Shearer was around then. Obviously, I think he just retired. I was competing with some world-class centre
But
forwards.
you still got picked?
Yeah,
so that shows, even amongst all that.
No disrespect, I was playing for Sunderland at the time. It isn't, your Arsenal, your Liverpool, your Man United. So, I was delighted to get 8 caps amongst those elite.
I was going to say, mate, I'd have done anything for one goal in the Premier League and just a call up and stand in amongst all them players. And the other obvious massive achievement was you are still the only Englishman to play in the Premier League and win the European Golden Boot.
Yeah, it's still.
I know Harry Kane won it last year, but that was playing in Germany.
Playing in easy league, isn't it?
It's easy. Anyone can score 30 goals in that division.
No, it is. It's a recognition and something that
again playing for Sunderland.
Yeah, of course. So I won the Premier League Golden Boot that same season. So the 2 boots themselves, when I was a kid growing up and was just scored lots and lots of goals. And watching, football, watching Gary Lineker, Ian Wright as well as one of my heroes, an Arsenal fan, winning Golden Boots. Then Thierry Henry came on the scene. He's the best striker the Premier League's ever seen. Lucky enough to, play against him and watch him. When I seen them winning Golden Boots as a kid, you want to win them. You want to win individual.
It's the ultimate accolade for a striker,
course it is, yeah. And to be able to do it in my first season, I won it in the Championship.
Did you just get bright and think, this is easy?
It felt easy until the second season came around. And people worked you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But, it's an award that, it should be on my mantelpiece, but it's not. It's in the loft, wrapped up in bubble wrap.
Get that down right
Yeah,
now.
I know. If you'd have given me a bit more notice, I probably could have.
I would have done, I did message him. I did message him and think, we've got to get it behind, but it was my fault for not asking a bit earlier. But we'll do it again.
Yeah, it was, it stood, it still is an Englishman, obviously, in the Premier League. And, as I say, competing against, those guys I was competing against. I remember Alan Shearer saying that no one would get more than 30 league goals in the Premier League after I think he done it, because not that he didn't think someone could do it. I think it's purely because the quality of the centre halves and defenders that were coming to the Premier League from all over the world. And when I got close to it, that always stuck in my mind. I thought, I want to do that. And when I scored that 30th against West Ham at the stadium, I remember it as clear as day. It was like, I've proved people wrong, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
I got this written down somewhere. We're going to jump about a little bit, but didn't some?
I know it's Rodney Marsh.
Rodney Marsh, that was it.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
He said Kevin Phillips won't score 5 or 6 goals next season.
Yeah, which is at the end of the day when, and it's the same now. When teams come up from the Championship and strikers have scored goals, naturally you're going to question whether they can make that step to the Premier League, because it's a huge gulf.
Do you think the transition now is harder? Because obviously we've seen every season after season after season, that the 3 that come up, we go straight back down again.
It's purely financial as well.
Well, they've Sunderland have had a go, haven't they?
And you know what? Yeah, they have. They spent 140, 50 million quid, which surprised me. But if you want to survive in the Premier League, you have to do it. But you have to recruit right. But in terms of a centre forward coming up, I was at the game last week at the Stadium of Light, and you know, it's a big challenge for strikers to jump from the Championship scoring goals to the Premier League because you're playing against better opposition who are clever, quicker, stronger, faster. So yeah, you know, naturally Rodney made that comment on Sky, I think it was, and not a lot winds me up. And you know, as we go on, you'll see I'm quite a relaxed guy, but that for some reason
stuck with you.
Yeah, stuck with me.
That might give you that extra bit of motivation.
No, it did. Honestly,
it
really did. You know, I had the motivation of wanting to score goals in the Premier League and prove myself, but someone questioning that, you know, I won't score more than 4 and 5, and I think I was on 5 after about 4 games, 5 games. So it kind of quickly
should have got his phone number.
Yeah, no, I've never ever seen him since. I think he's out in Canada or America. So it's always nice to prove people.
Yeah, of course it is. But we'll come on to this recurring theme of just this resilience in your career, which is unbelievable. But just for younger viewers that don't obviously know, and probably hadn't seen you play, the type of player that won that Golden Boot was the original R9, the only Ronaldo I really love. Henry, Cristiano Ronaldo, Totti, Messi, Lewandowski, Mbappe, Kevin Phillips.
Sits in there just nice.
But you are. It sounds right. But that is the level that you were working at.
It was, you know, and then players, you know,
and no one's done it since. So
no, they haven't. You know. So it's. I think it just shows, you know, how tough the Premier League is. You know, the quality there is, and you know, we've seen Haaland over the last few years. You know, score many goals, but they're playing in, you know, the best team in the Premier League, and they get chances created left, right, centre. So you know, to be amongst those elite names is, you know, I don't make much of it, if I'm being honest. You know, other people do, and when you hear, you know, people like yourself say it to me, it kind of like hits home a little bit.
But like you say, to do it is one thing, but to do it at an Arsenal or a Chelsea or a Man United who are established with the best players, but to get promoted and do it,
especially in your first season,
it's just incredible.
Yeah, it was.
But we'll go back to the very start. You had 6 years at Southampton as a kid. How did your sort of footballing journey begin as a kid?
Well, I was at Southampton as a schoolboy, so I lived in a place called Stevenage in Hertfordshire, and that's where I was brought up. And I was on Southampton's book for 4 years as associate schoolboy, it was called then. So my dad used to take me to, they had a school of excellence in Harlow and Slough, which was the 2 nearest places for me to go on a Tuesday and a Thursday night. And then I would travel down to Southampton on a Sunday for a game. So, you know, Southampton have been known, you know, for years and for having a wonderful academy, produced some amazing players over the years, and the setup was incredible. So yeah, I would do Tuesday at Harlow, then Thursday at Slough, and then Sunday my dad would take me down to Southampton to play a game if it was at Southampton or wherever it was. So I did that for 4 years, and at the end of that, I got offered a scholarship. It was an apprenticeship, which it was then. So I moved down for 2 years as a striker, scored lots and lots of goals. And when I got down to Southampton, after about 3-4 weeks, Dave Merrington, who was my manager at the time, and ironically was a big Geordie. So my connection with the North East came a little bit early. He just pulled me in and said, "Look, we can see you've got talent. We can see that, you know, there's something there, but I hadn't really developed. You know, as you can see, I'm not the biggest of guys. So I hadn't really developed physically." He said, "So we've made a decision that to develop you physically quicker, we're going to stick you at right back."
Well, I read that.
Yeah, it's right back. Insane. I thought he was April Fools or something. I was like,
surely you're out of the game more.
I know. So, but they just felt that, you know, defending, coming up against wingers, just physical battles, really. Physicality. Physicality.
Defending,
reading the game, getting to know the game. But I was a little bit, well, you know, if that gets me in the team, then I'll play there.
I suppose at that age you don't really question it. You just think, okay, you know best. I'll just, you know.
Yeah, and you don't. You know, am I at 16 or to question someone that's, you know, been managing for years and years and years? So I just went along with it. Didn't enjoy it.
No.
But I ended up playing pretty much 2 years as a right back. I was rubbish at defending, but I was all right going forward. I was almost like a wing back then.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 years there as a right back. Didn't enjoy it. And come the end of the 2 years, I knew I was going to get released. Released me. I went back to Stevenage, went back home, and ended up going into non-league and eventually going back to being a centre forward.
This is what I was saying about this resilience. You know, I'll bet they regret. Well, they must have regretted.
Well, you know, well, one of the things I said, because they took you up to the office. Chris Nicholl was the first team manager at the time.
Yes.
Dave Merrington was sat next to Chris Nicholl, and I knew I was going in. They were going to say, and the last thing I said to him when I went out the door, he said, "I'm going to prove you wrong." And to be fair to the pair of them, they both went, "Well, we really hope you do. We wish you all the best for your career." I'd seen Dave Merritt because when I went back as a professional, Dave was working on the
You
radio.
went back to Southampton.
Yeah,
come on to that.
and to be fair to him, he found out where I lived. He came to my house, knocked on the door, came in for a cup of tea, and was delighted that I'd come back as a centre forward. But I've never ever bumped into Chris Nicholl. I never did bump into Chris Nicholl. So yeah, that was my journey.
Yeah, as I say, you sort of a great advertisement for having that knockback, but not letting it really affect you. And obviously, you must have known by playing out of position that you could make an impact in your correct position, which was obviously up front.
Yeah.
So then you went. I did say that BALDOCK Town you went to, and didn't you? Because you'd played at right back for Sunderland, for Southampton. Is that why you started at BALDOCK Town at right back?
Well, the reason I got into BALDOCK, because obviously I came home disappointed, gutted, and my dad wrote to every football league club in the country asking for a trial, and we only got.
Dad you want that?
Yeah, he was great. God rest his soul. I lost him very, very young when I was young, and I think we got 2 or 3 replies, believe it or not, and they were all sorry. We've got our full quota. We'll keep an eye on you. So. I was really in limbo, really, what to do. And my mum said, well, she worked with a guy that was relative of a guy called Ian Allison, who used to be an Arsenal winger. He was the manager of BALDOCK Town, the local. It was the little town next to Stevenage. And she said, I'll have a word with him, see if you can go down for a training session. So I eventually went down on a Tuesday night, turned up.
Had you been about 17 then?
I was 18.
Oh, 18,
yeah. So I went down to BALDOCK, obviously as a right back. Yeah. Spoke to Ian and told him that I am really a centre forward, and he was like, okay, let's have a look. Anyway, I started training, and he decided to put me in as right back. Right. And I kept telling him, Ian, I'm a centre forward. Don't like right back. I'm not very good at it. So I'd been there about 2 months, and I played the odd game because I'd gone from kids football to men's football, and it was so tough, not being a big
non-league as well.
Of course, it was brutal.
Yeah.
This particular Friday night, I get a call off Ian Allison. He was lucky to catch me in because normally I went out on a Friday night non-league. I'd stayed in that night, and he said, "Listen, you're going to get your opportunity tomorrow." He said, "We've got no strikers."
I've read that. Yeah. Injury.
Yeah, injuries, illness. He said, "I'm going to play up front tomorrow, so let's have a look at you. You can keep telling me you're a striker." So we played Burnham away the next day. I remember it's clear as day. Burnham away. And we won 2-0. I scored both goals and never looked back.
The rest, as they say, is
never played right back again.
I ain't surprised, to be honest. I mean, that was the spark. Do you think that just kicked it on?
100%.
You just needed that one opportunity.
If I'd have gone out that night, if I was being disciplined, I was being professional. I was lucky that I answered the phone to him, and I was buzzing, couldn't wait to get going, and obviously scored the 2 goals next day, and that was it. I was off and running.
That's it. Unbelievable. I said that, never look back. Yeah. So from BALDOCK Town, to Watford. How does that happen? Where were Watford at the time?
They were in League One.
League One.
Yeah, League One. So the Championship now.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, it was.
Isn't it? Normally at non-league level, you might jump 1 or 2 divisions at a time.
League 2 maybe. Or what was it? The old conference.
Yeah.
But I started to make a name for myself in the non-league scoring goals, and we always knew that there were scouts. Not as much as there is today. Scouts everywhere. But
everyone's a scout now.
Of course they are. Yeah, they are. But I got wind that there was a few clubs potentially looking at me. Anyway, this particular Tuesday night, Ian pulled me in the office before the game, and he said, "Look, I've been told Glenn Roeder's here tonight to look at you from Watford." And to be fair, I wish he hadn't have told me because I was nervous then, the butterflies kicked in, and he said, listen, forget about it, just go and play your normal game. It's a horrible, cold Tuesday night. And first thing you do, he's told me, where is he? So I'm looking where he is, and he's quite a distinct guy, big guy, Glenn. So the game kicks off, and he positioned himself behind the goal. Clearly wanted to see my movements, etc., etc. I didn't have a great game. I scored a worldie of a goal. I think it was a 25-yarder.
You didn't have a great game.
No, I didn't. No, I did. Yeah, I just remember it.
I'd call that a great game.
No, it wasn't. I wasn't really involved in it.
Right,
I just scored a good goal, and I was kind of thinking afterwards I hadn't done enough to get a trial. Anyway, about 3 or 4 days went by. I didn't hear a thing, and then the chairman of the football club, Bob Eagles, his name was at the time. He rang me and he said, "Listen, we've had Watford on. So they want to take you for a trial next week for a week. can you get time off work? I was like,
what was you doing?
I was working in Dixon's in a warehouse.
Really?
Yeah, so it kind of like,
of non-league football.
yeah, it kind of leads in because I was stacking TVs onto lorries to get delivered to. And when I eventually signed for Watford and I played my first game live on telly and scored a winning goal, the headline in the papers the next day, he's gone from stacking TVs to starring on TV. And I've kept that cutting ever since.
Great,
so, yeah, I went to Watford for a trial and, I went for a week, played 2 games, and then got invited back for another game after that against Millwall away at the new Den, played, and then afterwards Glenn pulled me to one side and said, look, we want to give you a 2-year contract. Do you want to sign? And I was like, yeah, I'd sign for nothing. I actually took a pay cut to turn professional because I was earning decent money in Dixon's.
Of course,
and I was getting paid for playing non-league, but I took a pay cut. I was on £300 a week. They offered me £300 a week. I'd have played for nothing.
Yeah, yeah. That was the opportunity, wasn't it?
It was my dream, yes. So to be told, what was it, a year and a half earlier, 2.5 years earlier, that you're not going to be a professional, to 2.5 years later being offered a professional contract. And the way it came, I was never ever going to say no, and I was never ever going to, let this opportunity slide.
So then it was Watford to, I would say that your biggest and best spell was obviously Sunderland.
Yeah.
That was the club that really launched you into the stratosphere, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It's where I made my name.
Yeah.
I have loads of people to thank for that. Of course, I had to go and prove myself there as well because I was going there really, no one had heard of me up there. Obviously, Peter Reid had when he signed me because he just remembers this little player caused him problems up at Old Roker Park for Watford. I don't really remember the game, but he remembers it. And when the opportunity came for him to sign me, he said, yes, let's sign him. So for me, it was. I was talking to Harry, our mutual friend, and he was saying about when you signed for Sunderland, wasn't you sitting in the car park at Ipswich? Yeah, I was. Yeah. So
how did that happen? Because you must have been very close to signing for Ipswich.
I'd agreed. Yeah, I travelled to Ipswich with my agent. George Burley was the manager at the time, and David Sheepshanks was the owner of Ipswich. So I got the tour of the ground, agreed personal terms, but we were sat in my agent's car in the car park at Portman Road, and the two, Watford and Ipswich, couldn't agree a fee. Right, okay. So they were to-ing and fro-ing, and eventually,
in limbo.
Yeah, I was in limbo. I was sitting there waiting for them to agree, and anyway, my agent got the call to say, look, they can't agree. It's going to have to go to a tribunal, and that takes a week to 10 days because they'd already got another player going to tribunal. So you couldn't have 2 going at the same time. So I had to that was pretty much, you've got to go back to Watford. And I was like, well, I don't want to. I'd already told him, Graham Taylor at the time, I told him I want to leave. I said, so what do we do? So my agent went, right. He says, I've got an idea. I'm going to ring Peter Reid at Sunderland. I said, what now? He went, yeah, I'll ring him on the car phone. I was like, well, don't make out I'm in the car. So he gets him on the speakerphone and I'm sitting there just listening. And Peter's a top guy. He answers the phone in his deep Scouse accent. And he's quite an aggressive person. Yeah. And he hates agents. And he was like, what do you want? So my agent went, listen, I might have something for you. This opportunity's come up. Would you be interested in signing a lad called Kevin Phillips? And I was expecting him to say, nah, it's all right. Yeah, who? And his first words were, get him up here now. He said, I'll sign him. And I'm sat there, because my heart and head was set on signing for Ipswich. And I'm sat there thinking, I don't want to sign for Sunderland.
It's a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, my ex at the time was due our first child. And I was sitting, I don't want to go there. No. Anyway, when he put the phone down, we drove from Ipswich back to Stevenage, which was about an hour and 15 minutes. By the time I got home, I thought, I'm going to give it a shot. I spoke to my partner, my wife at the time, and I said, look, we're off to Sunderland tomorrow. Not you, but I just packed. Well, to be fair to her, she said, look, if that's what you want to do, we'll do it. But I went, obviously, on my own straight away, packed my car next morning, drove to Sunderland, and I have to say it was probably the best decision.
So
it didn't nearly come off.
So Ipswich missed out massively then, didn't they?
Yeah, they have.
Just agreed the fee.
Yeah, well, I spoke to George a couple of times afterwards, and he was.
How different was? How sort of far apart was that? Do you know?
I don't know, to be honest. No. Once I signed for Sunderland,
that was it. Yeah,
my mind was set on that, and it was a great decision.
Yeah, and your first season which was League One.
Yes.
In some 35 goals.
Yeah.
You got this sort of recurring thing as you just go in and start banging the goals straight away.
And again,
confidence must have just been.
It was, and you know, again, you know, being slightly the underdog, you know, there was no pressure on me really because not a lot of the Sunderland fans knew who I was.
No.
They was expecting, they were crying out for a centre forward, and they wanted the club to go and sign a big name because they wanted to bounce straight back to the Premier League. Just got relegated out the Premier League, and you know, it was they were crying out for a big name, and when they signed me, a lot of the fans were like, "Who?" You know, so there was no pressure on me, but you know, I put pressure on myself, and I knew that given me opportunities, I'd score goals. It was as simple as that. It was just whether the team could create opportunities for me, and we had a good team. We had a great manager, good coaching staff, and I just went in there with. I've proved people wrong from being released non-league to getting back into the professional game.
This is what I'm on about, this resilience.
Yeah, it's just proving it is. You keep going. Yeah, I think the route I got. You know, to be told at 18 you're not good enough, and being played at right back as well, just drove me on in my career. And you know, if I ever got that opportunity, I told myself I'm never ever going to let it slip. You know, I'm going to give it everything I've got, and I certainly did that. So you know, that first season at Sunderland, you know, I think quickly the fans realised that they might have someone. They might have someone who can score goals here, and to get 35 in my first season, obviously was incredible. I never obviously envisioned I would get that many, but I always felt I could score goals.
I mean, leads on to, I still think he's the greatest playoff final ever. I know you come off on the wrong end of it, but what a game that was, the Charlton 4-4.
It was incredible, and
Mendonca hat trick.
Yeah, and he's from Sunderland as well, believe it or not, Clive. And I think, you know, unfortunately,
if you haven't seen that, go and watch it.
Yeah, watch it. Honestly, it's incredible. And Clive got the hat-trick, and I believe that night all his family's windows got smashed in because they still lived in Sunderland, which just, you know, is bizarre. But, you know, it was an incredible game. And unfortunately, I came off on the 67th minute. I had cramp, actually, because I got a dead leg in the second leg of the playoff, and I didn't train much going into the playoff final. And as always, big pitch at Wembley, hot day, dehydrated. I couldn't last the game. So the game was, you know, my dream was growing up to be a professional footballer, score at Wembley, the old Wembley, and to play for England. And luckily I got to do all that. So, you know, going into that game, also I was on 34 goals, and Brian Clough held the record for goals in a season. It was 34. So I wanted to break his record, the great Brian Clough.
Yeah. And what a striker he was.
Yeah, he was amazing. Lovely guy.
People forget how good a footballer he was. Forget about
he's a legend up there. Legend in Nottingham. You know, I was lucky enough to meet him. He presented me with a shirt. And I scored that goal, obviously broke his record, and I thought this is going to be the winning goal at Wembley, but it didn't turn out to be. So I had to come off and enjoy watching it. And obviously the penalty shootout, it was you know, Mickey Gray. You know, he never wanted to take a penalty.
Did he not want to take it?
No. It come to sudden death, didn't it? He didn't want to take one. And you know, it's horrible, you know, to miss one at Wembley. And he's a Sunderland boy as well. So yeah, it was an incredible day at Wembley. Disappointing, but in hindsight, and I said it afterwards in the media, that I think it was a good thing because we had a young team. We needed another year. We weren't quite. We'd have got battered in the Premier League that season. We had another season for the young lads to develop. For myself, we romped the league the next season. Then we were in the Premier League, and it says
that. You got 25 goals the season after. Disappointing. That was Kevin.
No, well, it was
just the 25.
I missed 3 months of the season as well because I got injured. I played in a rubbish cup game against Chesterfield at home, and Peter Reid didn't want to play me. But being that selfish striker, I went, Gaffer, I want to play because I can smell goals. Anyway, I scored and then got injured, and I was out for 3 months.
And so still got 25. I
still got 25 goals. So I actually believe I would have got more than 35 the season before if I had stayed fit. So, you know, 2 seasons at Sunderland, I'd scored 60 goals. I think Sunderland fans have realised that they've got half-decent centre-forward.
We might be right. And then the England call-up.
Yeah. So
that was before you ever played in the top flight.
Yeah.
Never played in the top flight.
Yeah, me and Mickey.
There isn't many players.
We were the first two. Me and Mickey Gray were the first two to get called up for an England squad outside the top league. And it was amazing. You know, we heard rumours. I'd heard rumours that Kevin Keegan was watching.
Yeah.
You know, there's a potential that you might get called up for the England squad. And when the international break come around, I remember just before I left training, Peter Reid pulled me in and just went, listen, he went, keep your phone on. And I was doing an interview down on Roker Beach, Sunderland's beach, with Sky Sports for, I can't remember what it was for. And before I left, Reedy went, keep your phone on. He said, if I ring you, answer it. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. He said, don't care. He says, just answer your phone. And if it really tells you that you do it, you do as you're told. So anyway, we're down on the beach, walking along the seafront, getting interviewed. My phone rings. I can feel it buzzing in my pocket. And I went to him, look, I'm sorry, I've got to answer it because it's the gaffer. And I said, I might be called up for England. So they kept rolling.
Oh, right.
So I ring Gaffer, Kev, well done, you've been picked for England. I was like, you're joking. He went, do you think I'd joke about something like that? He said, well done, son. You know, go and tell your family, blah, blah, blah. Put the phone down and I was like, that's it, I'm in the England squad. I was like, couldn't believe it. So yeah, it was amazing to, you know, I scored at Wembley. You know, now I'm going to represent my country and I'm a professional footballer. So all of a sudden, all those emotions came through.
Those few years must have just been unbelievable. So from the lower getting released to playing non-league and working a part-time job, and just like the curve was like
and it all happened within 4 or 5 years. You know, it happened so quick. And
do you think the momentum helped?
Yeah, of course it did.
Continually, the good decisions, obviously, which you wouldn't have known at the time, not going to Sunderland would have been so successful. But that momentum of and like hitting the ground running at all the clubs as well.
You're right, it was. And you know, the clubs that I'd been at, you know, I had a great time at Watford, score goals, and then I hit this, you know, joined a Sunderland team that had been relegated, but they were determined. We just moved into the new stadium, which held 42,500 people. The fanatical support up there. You know, the manager I played under that really helped me, and the management staff there. It was momentum, and you know, first season goals, promotion. You know, led to an England call up. So everything happened really, really quickly. But like everything in life, doesn't always last because we ended up getting relegated.
You know, to achieve what you did in succession, and then like we've already spoke about it, but then that first, so you got the England call up, then your first season in the Premier League, 30 goals, and that you know, golden boot, and the top scorer in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, it came, you know, so quick, and it was almost one of those. Is it always like this?
Yeah,
so you're kind of always waiting for that, you know, that hit someone to just slam the door in your face, and you know, it didn't come until I think my 4th season at Sunderland when we were scrapping relegation, and the 5th season, and then the 6th season we got relegated, which was tough because it had been like that, and then it went like that, which happens. But yeah, you know, to experience all that in such a short space of time and to achieve the things I achieved was just incredible. And, you know, it was something that I'll obviously always remember. But you're right, Sunderland did put me on the map, and that led to me playing for lots and lots of clubs after Sunderland and relatively doing well at pretty much every club I did, even if there was a couple of relegation. Well, there was one relegation in there too, but still had good times at those clubs I went to.
I will touch on one partnership you had, which is like famous, Quinn and Phillips.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first met Niall, and did you just hit it off straight away off the pitch? Were you good mates?
Yeah.
And what was it like that, you know, developing that partnership?
He was, you know, when I signed for Sunderland, I wasn't too sure who was who really. The only people I'd really heard of was Niall Quinn, Peter Reid. The other players I wasn't too sure about. But you know, I met him, just realised, geez, he's a tall lad. He's 6'7". But he, you know, believe it or not, people don't realise Niall was pretty much going to retire when I signed for the club.
Really?
He was struggling. I think he just had he had a cruciate. He was coming back from a cruciate injury with his knee, and I think he had it in his head that this is probably it now. But we just, you know, we just hit it off on and off the pitch. You know, I do lots and lots of sportsmen's dinners, and there's many stories about Quinny off the pitch and on it. You know, he's a top absolute. You know, if you ever get to meet him, he's one. He always comes across as a nice guy. He's an absolute top fella, and what he did at Sunderland is, you know, it's amazing. He has his own bar named after him up there, and he's a legend up there. You know, chairman of the club. So we hit it on and off the pitch, and on the pitch, people say, "Well, what did you do on the training ground? You must have worked for hours." Didn't work on anything. Just naturally. Just naturally. Reedy just said, and Quinny used to say to me, because I used to ask, "What should I do?" He said, "Just don't ever be more than 10, 15 yards away from me." So just playing and around me, whether that's in behind me or around the front of me to the side, just be around me so I know where you are. Yeah. And I just kept that in my mind, and we just hit it off and off the pitch. Yeah, knockdowns, flicks. So Quinny
always think he's anticipate he's always going to win the ball. Yeah, yeah,
and Quinny you could tell because he used to jump and hang, and you could tell that he's going to flick this on. Yeah. So as a striker, I'm like, well, there's no point coming around in front of him. I'm on my bike as long as you stay on side. And then I could tell if the ball he can't flick, he's going to chest it, so I can come round the front and link with him,
Yeah,
or
and go
he's going to
against
set
him
to a
around the back.
midfielder,
Yeah,
and then I make my
yeah.
third man run and get him behind. So we just hit it off, and it was incredible. And I think what we did as well, that first season in the Premier League, we were an unknown entity really, because Premier League defenders hadn't come up against a little and large centre forward, so they were like,
it's the perfect combination, isn't it?
Who marks him? Who marks him? So we just...
Because you need a pacey central defender to go with your runs, but you also need a big lump to try and
deal with him.
And if you're obviously always on the move, then you're just pulling them all over the place. And if you have good midfielders that can run through as well and make late runs to the box, and
I think you see a lot of our goals we scored those first 2 seasons were exactly that. We were very, I wouldn't say one-dimensional. We were pretty much a 4-4-2. Get it up to Quinny as early as we can. If he secures it, can we set it to someone? Get the ball wide to an old-fashioned... Nicky Summerby was a right footer on the wing. He was one of the best crossers I'd ever played with.
He was fantastic.
And you knew what was happening. He was going to come in the box, and then we'd be like, we'll get in the box. If it went the other side, we'd have Mickey Gray overlapping with his left foot for crosses. It was simple football.
Do you know what? Looking at the way, obviously Villa now, the way we play, which is very methodical and slow build up, and it does frustrate some fans now a little bit. But I'll go back to your days, and when I played. I mean, I'm nearly about the same age as you, and I played around here in Lichfield, and the Quinn Phillips thing. I used to play up front, and obviously I'm quite a tall lad, and that I loved that style of football. So get the ball up, hold it up, and then get up the pitch. If you can hold it up, you can get everybody up to you, can't you? But like you say, it's just such a simple way of playing.
It's, you think, right, if you're set up against us, well, we know what they're going to do, but we were so good at it, couldn't stop it. And Nicky Summerby, as a right winger, he had the ability to not have to take a fullback on to cross the ball. He'd shift it outwards and whip it around the back of the defenders. And, as centre forwards, we see it now, didn't you? Maybe you see it a lot of Villa, where there's a lot, as a centre forward, you're kind of like almost standing there because they're just tap, 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 tap. Whereas we knew it's coming up, set, get it wide, or it just goes wide early, just get in the box, and it was quick. I'm not saying it worked every time.
No, of course not, but it was successful
we had a lot
for a period.
Yeah, we had a lot of joy.
So then you obviously left Sunderland eventually and back to Southampton.
Yeah.
That's a funny turn of events.
Well, I've gone from one end of the country
going backwards and forwards, isn't it?
It was, back to a red and white shirt as well. It was, it came
was
around.
There many people there from when you left?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't.
No.
Obviously, they'd moved to St Mary's, and I was there when I was at the Dell. So they'd moved to St Mary's. The training ground was a different training ground. So a lot had changed. Gordon Strachan, it was very late on in the window that I moved to Southampton. And, they were probably the only club I would have left Sunderland for, because I was contemplating staying at Sunderland and playing in...
Because it was like going back home, like...
it was, because I spent a lot of time there. I had affiliation with, the family I lived with down there, and, I knew people down there, obviously. So, when I spoke to Gordon, he was a very infectious person, went down to his home, introduced me to his family, and once I did that, he made me feel like he wanted me. And James Beattie at the time was flying. I was making a name for him. So I just thought that partnership that I had with Quinny, I could try and recreate with Beats. And, that was the decision why I went down there.
And you ended up doing it with Crouchy?
Yeah, so Beats didn't last very long. Strax didn't last very long. So, that first season, and then Crouchy come along, and, we hit it off again, just little man, large man. And, he's a top player, Crouchy, top guy, top player.
Unbelievable player.
Great player.
So the reason you are here, obviously, Villa podcast. Then the move to Villa came. So £1 million, David O'Leary. How did that come about?
Well, funny enough, so when I was...
Sorry, you'd had a really... Last year was a nightmare, wasn't it? So
we got relegated.
4 managers, wasn't it?
4 managers. It was carnage, and then, we fell through the trapdoor and got relegated, and... I wanted to stay in the Premier League.
Yes.
It's the league you want to play in, and it was clear that I was going to move on, and ironically, of course, Aston Villa is a huge football club, based here in the Midlands. And when I was at Sunderland, I remember I was away on an England squad, and I woke up on a Sunday morning, and to my wife at the time, I'd missed about 4 calls. Sunday morning, she said to me, I eventually spoke to her, she went, "Have you seen the paper?" My heart dropped and think, what have I been up to?
Oh, shit, what have I done now?
What have I done? Don't remember being out the last few weeks. I was like, why? She went, oh, you're on the front page. I was like, what about?
That's
she went,
not good, is it, front page?
Yeah, I know. She was like, it's not like, it's just a little, she said, oh, Aston Villa have apparently bid 15 million for you. I was like, whoa, it's football. So I was like, all right. And I said, no, I haven't seen it. She said, yeah, apparently they're going to bid, John Gregory, the manager at times, going to bid 15 million. So I rang my agent and he went, yeah, he says, I've seen it. He says, there is talk. Anyway, it never came to fruition. Peter Reid quickly rang me. He said, you're going nowhere. Right. He says, I want you to sign a new deal at Sunderland. So I signed a new contract at Sunderland. So eventually I found out later on when Niall was chairman, I think, apparently Villa did bid 15 million for me, but Sunderland knocked it back. So yeah, there was a kind of link then early. Yeah. So when David O'Leary got on the phone and said that he'd like me to sign for Aston Villa, I was like, of course, it's a massive club, in the Midlands, and I couldn't drive to Villa quick enough. So I got in my car, Southampton, drove and signed there and then. And I was excited because Milan Baros had just signed as well. Been at Liverpool. I was excited. Obviously, Juan Pablo was there. Patrick Berger had signed. Aaron Hughes had signed. So we were signing some players, and I thought,
good move. Yeah,
good move, excellent move. And I was excited.
What was O'Leary like? I heard a lot of people say he's a nice guy.
Yeah, lovely guy, really nice guy. And I remember leaving the training ground at Bodymore the day before, and the groundsman at the time lived on site. I can't remember his name. Lovely old fella, been there years. And the last thing he said to me when I left the training ground, he went, Kev, good luck tomorrow. He says, if you score in front of the Holt end tomorrow, you'll remember it for the rest of your life. Yeah. And that kind of stuck with me. And we turned up the next day and I was buzzing, debut at Villa Park, when we're kicking towards the Holt end first half. And I remember, I think might have been Aaron Hughes crossed
Aaron
it.
Hughes, yeah.
And Jaskalainen, I just seen...
the centre-half and the keeper both flat.
Yeah, both flat.
And you just stood there behind
they're going to miss it. So they both missed it. And I just thought, I've got to tap in.
Yeah.
And I managed to head it into an empty net. And the groundsman I seen him on the Monday. I said, you're right. It was like, I'm not sure whether it was full or not. It probably was.
Pretty much, I think.
But the noise and that was just, it was great. And as a striker, you'd have interviewed many strikers. To get off the mark in your debut is a massive, and then you kind of open your kick on. But unfortunately, I suffered with some injuries and never quite got going.
Well, I said, you got a goal and assist in your debut against Bolton, which was a great start. And then you had a bit of a run where you had one or two knocks and injuries. Yeah. And then you came back with another goal, quite a famous goal, Kev. Yeah. And we'll definitely talk about this one. Away at St Andrews, when we'd had a torrid run against Blues up until that point, couldn't get a win against them for love or money. And you managed to get the winner away. Yeah. In the local derby. What was that
with
like?
My left foot as well.
Left foot, great. It finished out bottom corner.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing.
Was it hostile? Did you feel it was hostile?
Yeah, it was.
You obviously played in the Sunderland Newcastle derby.
Played Watford Luton. Believe it or not, it's a horror. They hate each other as well.
So how does the Villa Blues one stack up?
Yeah, it's up there. Southampton Portsmouth is a big derby. There's hatred there as well. So at least I'd had taste of derbies and I knew what to expect, but I'd never played in a derby where the two grounds are literally a mile apart. Yeah. It's that close to each other. When you're in the city, it's either Blues or Villa. Yeah. You get the Wolves fan in there, but it's mainly Blues.
Yeah.
So it was, when you're a professional, they're the games that you love.
Yeah.
And they're the games you look for when the fixtures come out. And obviously that one was at St Andrews. The first game was at St Andrews. And I was made aware that Villa had a torrid time and hadn't won there for a while. So, we went into the game. You never know whether you're going to win or not. No. We went in believing that we'll get a result. And David had set us up well. O'Leary, he prepared us right. And if I'm being honest, I don't remember too much about the game. It was very hostile. Yeah. But I just remember the opportunity. And I don't think I had too many opportunities that day. But I remember getting on the edge of the box, cutting in on my left, and just try to get connection on it. Just try to pass it in the corner. And I hit it sweet with my left foot as well. Didn't score many with my left. And I think when that goal went in, you kind of realise what you've done. Yeah. And I'm not sure if I ran back to the Villa fans because they were miles away.
Yeah, they looked the other end, weren't they?
But it was, it was a great feeling. Yeah. It was a great feeling to hear our fans, celebrating, hearing home fans booing.
Yeah.
And you become a villain straight away.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Great
so
for
it
us.
was, then as a striker, I think I came off towards the end. I remember, because I was on the bench, and I remember David O'Leary screaming at the fourth official.
Get
and
centre half on.
Well, no, just blow for full time, blow
for
full time. And, the famous, when the full-time whistle, when you realise what you've done, you've scored the winning goal in a local derby. And then David, Leary ran across the pitch and to
giving it all that, wasn't it?
It was rightly or wrongly, but that's just what derbies do.
It's emotion, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is.
So it probably didn't sink in what I'd done until I got on the bus afterwards, and we'd celebrated. Obviously, I did loads of media afterwards.
Yeah.
And I get on the bus afterwards, and I'm sat next to Lee Hendry, Gareth Barry's opposite me. And Lee's on the phone. He said, "Here, someone wants to speak to you." And I was like, "Hello," and it was Merce. So he went, "You're coming out tonight." I was like, "What?" He said, "You're out tonight." I said, "No, I can't, Merce." He went, "You are coming out tonight." He said, "You don't realise what you've just done." He said, "You've become a hero."
Yeah.
He said, "You're out tonight." I stood strong. I didn't go out because I thought it would get a bit messy.
Yeah.
But he said, "You don't realise what you've just done. You've become a hero."
Didn't buy a drink for the next 6 months.
No, and even to this day, believe it or not, I know I play for Blues and West Brom, but whenever I go into Birmingham, I've never had any issues, no problems, because, I score goals for all the clubs, and, you might get a little bit here and there.
Of course you do,
But, that's probably one of the reasons why I don't get slapped by a Villa fan, because I scored the winning goal.
Well, so I'm just conscious I don't want to keep you too long. So, obviously, injuries and illness disrupted your season for Villa. You got 5 in 27. Do you feel disappointed that you couldn't replicate 100%. What had happened before? And do you think that was the first blip?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Not necessarily all down to that. It was like you say, just circumstances.
Yeah, injuries, illness, and it was one of those seasons where I just, I picked up stupid little things, and it was annoying because I'd been presented with an opportunity to play for a massive club. I'd got off to a flyer, scoring in a local derby. Come on, can I get that momentum? But it's just one of those seasons that happens.
Yeah, it just happens, doesn't it?
And I was there. I had a 2-year contract, and I totally wanted to honour it. But then, obviously, at the end of that season, we finished and came back for pre-season. David O'Leary left the football club, and then we're all waiting who's going to come in. Martin come in, and to be fair to him, he was very honest with me straight away, and he said, "Look, Kev." He says, "I want to bring my own players in. I'm going to."
I was going to say that. Did he not? Did you get a chance to sort of argue the case back, or is it just literally it's pointless?
Yeah. He says, "Listen, I want to bring my own players in. If you want to stay," he said, "and fight, that's up to you." But he said, "You're not going to have many opportunities." So I was like, "Right, okay, yeah." As a professional footballer, I'd rather him be honest than string me along and just like, you'll get. And then before you know it, half the season's gone and you haven't had any minutes. So at least he was honest with me and made it clear. So yes, I would love to have stayed, but I just felt my opportunities would have been limited.
We'll just gloss over the next 2 clubs. No, I'm joking. Here's a question I really wanted to ask you, to be honest. You went to West Brom from Villa and ended up at Small Heath. What was that like? You obviously must have felt, okay, I'm going from Villa to West Brom. It would have been worse if he'd probably gone to Blues, but West Brom and then to Blues. But he was very successful at both those clubs, wasn't he? Specifically Albion. You again started banging the goals.
Yeah, I have to say, I loved my season for the experience of being at a massive club, Villa, scoring that goal and what comes with it. And then I actually wasn't going to West Brom. I'd agreed to. Believe it or not, when I left, when Martin O'Neill had that conversation with me, I walked to my car at Bodymoor Heath, got in my car, my phone rings, and it was Niall Quinn. And Quinn went, "You're right, Kev." I was like, yeah. And he was just managing at Sunderland. He'd just taken over at Sunderland, interim. And he said, "Listen, cut long story short, I've been told that you're surplus."
Cross that gets around quick.
I thought, geez, Martin O'Neill must have just rung Quinn and said, "Right, I've told him." Yeah. So I was like, yeah. I says, he said, "Look, what's your thoughts about coming back to Sunderland?" So my initial reaction was straight away. So I went, "Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, up for that." He went, "Brilliant." He says, "I'll set the wheels in motion." So when I drove from Bodymoor to here to Lichfield, 20 minutes, I kind of thought about it. And then I got home and I was like, I rang him. I said, "No, mate." I said, "Listen, I've thought about it." I says, "It's not right to come back." So if I come back...
Is that because of the success you had the first time? It's going to be hard to replicate that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I spoke to people and they said, "Look, you're classed as a legend there. If you go back and don't do so well, it might taint..." So I was like, I'm not going. So I rang him and he went, well, just do me a favour, come up and speak to us. I went, okay, I'll do the honour of coming up and just chatting to you. So my agent rings me and he says, look, he said, that's fine, we'll go up. He said, but Brian Robson wants to chat to you. He says, so what we'll do, we'll go into West Brom first and then head up to Sunderland. Now, I've learned over the years, being a manager as well, if you can get a player through the door that you want to sign,
you're halfway there.
You're not letting them go. Yeah. So I went into West Brom and Brian and Nigel Pearson got me in the office and they basically weren't going to let me leave without signing. I had a medical. The old medical was literally just cough.
All right?
Yeah, there's just like, took about 20 minutes and I ended up signing for West Brom. And I have to say, Brian lost his job early there after about 2 or 3 months and then Tony Mowbray come in. And I have to say it was two of the best years of my career.
Yeah.
We played some amazing
goals,
and playoff finals, FA Cup semi-final, then promotion. You know, scored lots of goals for him. I had a great time. It just felt right. And the biggest thing as well for me was I'd settled in the Midlands. You know, I'd been up north, I'd been down south, I'd come to the Midlands, only been there a year, and I thought I've got to go back to the north. I just felt right here. So
you know, the amount of footballers that come to the Midlands, and specifically, obviously, from my point of view, Villa, and I said this actually when I spoke to him last time, that actually settle here, and when they finish playing, stay here.
Yeah, this is my home for life now. You know, my kids. One of my kids were born here, the other 3 were born in the North East, but this is all they know.
Like Bert said, he said, you don't realise till you play in the Midlands that everywhere you play, it's like dead easy.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of hours everywhere, isn't it?
It's
whereas like you say, when you're at Southampton, you got to go to bloody Sunderland to play. It's a full day, isn't it? Coming there and back.
Yeah, correct.
So then we weren't talking about Blues. You did all right there. To be fair, one of my customers at work is a big Blues fan. I talked to her a lot, and I said I was talking to you, and she said, you know what, you're really well liked at Blues.
I enjoyed it.
That's unusual to have somebody that's liked it all the
goal
Midlands
scorers. I'm telling you now. You know,
score goals you loved everywhere.
Correct. You know, I scored him a debut for Villa. I think I scored him a debut for West Brom, and then I came off the bench for Blues against Sheffield United. 20 minutes to go and scored the winner. Christ. And I think straight away the fans just forget about who you played for, and if you continue to score. So I had 3 seasons there. I really enjoyed it. You know, and Alex McLeish, obviously, not very well liked at Villa. Yeah. You know, it's I just enjoyed it. 3 years there, and you know they went really quick. So again, you know, I was based in the Midlands, which was a big thing for me.
Finished Blackpool, Palace, and Leicester. Was you just sort of winding down at that point? Did you know your career was sort of coming? Sort of,
yeah. But I actually, you know, as I was getting older, I was feeling more fitter.
Yeah.
You know, it was when I went to Blackpool after Birmingham under Ian Holloway. He gave me kind of like a new lease of life. He's such an infectious, you know, crazy guy to work for, but got what I was about. And
he played as some great managers.
Yeah, he honestly he was amazing. And what he did, you know, he knew that I lived in the Midlands, and I was commuting to Blackpool from here. And he used to just say, like, after a game Saturday, he'd say to me, "Don't come in Monday." Yeah. He said, "Just stay at home, do some work at home." He said, "Because it's only going to be a bit of a cool down, blah blah blah. See you Tuesday." So he trusted me, and I would work harder here at home than I would up there. So he looked after me, you know, as my age. I played a lot.
Again, as a senior pro, I suppose, you trust that you know what you're doing. Yeah.
So then I followed him to Palace, went down and played at Palace for him, and managed to get the winning goal for Palace in the playoff final to get them to the Premier League. And you know they're still in the Premier League since. And so I had a great 18 months down there under him and Tony Pulis. Then left there and came back to the Midlands at Leicester and finished my career under Nigel Pearson at Leicester, winning promotion to the Premier League. So, you know, it's been there and everywhere. Yeah. So I had 5 promotions in my career to the Premier. I think that's the most a player's got to the Premier League promotions. But I had 3 relegations as well. So I had
that don't matter, does it? Quick chat about your England career. 8 caps, you've said that, alluded to. But was you disappointed you didn't manage to notch for England, given your goal-scoring record?
Yeah, of course. You know, that's...
How close did you get?
Well, yeah, very close. I hit the side. So we played Malta away. I think 8 caps.
You must have fancied that one.
Yeah, well, it was, you know what, it was in June. It was just before, I think, might have been Euro 2000. Yeah. We played in June at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and it was like 40 degrees heat. And I thought, I only started about 4 games or 5 games out of my 8 caps. And I thought, sod's law, I'm starting away in 40, and it was the most boringest game. I think it was 0-0. Oh, it was 1-1.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember going round the keeper on the corner of the 6-yard box, and I had an empty net, and I just hit it into the side net, and I was like, I'm going to get slaughtered. And I got a lot of negative press afterwards, and So yeah, you know, it was.
Which is, I'm going to say, it's ridiculous.
That's playing for England. It's playing for England. It's
the record you had to
yeah,
you know.
But you know, that's England. If you get an opportunity, you've got to take it.
So,
So you know, I enjoyed my time. I think I was in every squad for 2 and a bit years under Sven and Kevin Keegan. Enjoyed every minute of it. It was a great experience playing, you know, training, playing alongside, you know, some of our country's finest. Was a great experience for me.
Unbelievable. So you finished playing. You've had a bit of a go at management. How's that worked out? Have you enjoyed that? Is that something you want to carry on doing?
Yeah, it was an experience.
Hard.
You know, yeah, it just takes over your life. You know, I've only managed at National League level. Then
so it's been South Shields, Hartlepool, AFC Files.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. It's challenging. Whether you're managing in a Premier League or at that level, they're all full time, and it takes over your life. Yeah. You know, I went from playing to coaching, and then took the big jump to go to managing, and I enjoyed it. But I'm not actively seeking to get back into management, if I'm being honest. If something come up and I fancied it, I'd look at it. But at the minute,
coaching,
no, I wouldn't go back to coaching. No. I'm enjoying doing the media work. I used to do a lot of it, you know, while I was playing, and when I finished.
No pressure in the media work, particularly.
There's not particularly, but you still need to be half decent because there's so many people looking to get into the media scene, and so I'm quite comfortable where I am at the moment. But if management come up with something, you know, took my fancy, I'd look at it for sure.
Kev, thank you so much for this. You know, I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Like, subscribe, comment on the video. Super Kevin Phillips, everyone. Up the Villa.